Blah. Y'all already know what it is. Your boy Yaakov with it do. The outlet to reality. The holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago. What up? This is the place where you want to hide from your drama or maybe hide from your baby mama. Just kidding. But anyways, fans, thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. And today we have a very special guest who I consider one of my favorite teachers of all time. Give it up for the one and only Mr. Harris.
Thank you. Thank you. You can just call me Brian if you want. Yeah.
Sorry. It's just
thanks, David. It's great to be here.
So look, Mr. Harris, I have to share this for people that don't know. So for those who don't know, Mr. Harris was one of my teachers, my favorite teachers at Northtown Academy International Charter School in Chicago. And one memory I have from you, I'm not gonna lie, when Mr. S, he would give big, lectures, and I'm gonna be honest, it didn't process in my brain his stories. It just didn't. Like it didn't feel like, and he's a great guy. It just, there's different styles of teaching and getting to your students. And I love this part. Brian, Mr. Harris will pull me to the side. He's like, hey, this come to my office. We'll figure this out. Don't worry. He played it real cool. So we'll go to his office and we'll talk about, it will be like history, probably about some history, but the Cold War, something that I did not get. And I was like, Mr. Harris, you gotta help me out. I just don't get it. And it was so cool because you broke it down and you made it fun. And at the same time, after we were done, like, doing, work, you're like, all right, now we could talk about anything you want. And it was so cool because I could be free. I felt like I wasn't stuck in a cage, and I could share about anything, like my day, what's going on with life. And it was just so nice because, you're very smart. I'm not gonna lie, very smart, and I love that. That's like one of my favorite things. And here's another thing too, Ms. Mueller, who's your wife, amazing person.
She's upstairs.
Oh, she's upstairs.
Yeah, she's sleeping.
She's sleeping, but she's also an amazing person too. Like she really also helped me out in Spanish, also with acting. And I gotta say, without you two, I feel like you really helped to make school fun, wanted me to stay and be active. So I got to give you guys credit. So I had to share this. That's why I'm so happy you're here, Mr. Harris. I don't know if you have any other stories.
As a teacher, I have to say you don't really hear that a lot, and you're never really sure. Especially, I don't know, like if you're a special ed teacher, you're dealing with, like, you don't know how the progress goes with students or what kind of impact you're having a lot of the time. It's different, okay, so with Emily Harris, formerly Muller, kids would come into her classroom, ideally at the beginning of the year, not knowing Spanish. And then at the end of the year, they would know Spanish. And that was like, not all of them, obviously. Some of them, only picked up a little bit. And that is like evidence of learning. But I never felt like, as a teacher, that I got very much evidence of an impact that I was having a lot of time, or it would take a really long time. Like years of working with a student. Do you remember Sherrod Harper?
Yeah,
like him. I worked with him for a really long time, and I was able to see, like, from the beginning to the end, and that was very nice because, like, you don't really have students in like a class like a general ed teacher does.
That's amazing.
But yeah, that's really good to hear. Thank you, David. That was pretty funny. Yeah. I remember one time you were going to go out on a date and I loaned you $10.
You did? You did? You so dang, you got a good memory. I got to be honest. I don't know if I told you this part, but when we went out for one food. It was like at this spot on Pulaski and Lawrence. It was like a nice little
Mm,
Middle Eastern restaurant. The day only went,
yeah,
one, it was only one day. It was okay. But
yeah.
I looked at it, it was like practice. Even though the
Oh
girl,
yeah.
she wasn't feeling me, she was like, I think we should just be friends. Yes.
Mm.
Yes. But
Sounds good.
right, right. At
At
least
15, that's a victory, or 16, however old you were. That's pretty good. It
right.
doesn't seem like it at the time, but no, that's pretty good.
Whoa, I'm so shocked you remember that. Like that's Mr. Harris. I gotta give you credit. Thank you for, having my back. Yes, yes.
Yeah, because I didn't have it, and I think I called my wife, and I was like, "Hey, David, you got any cash?" All right, David Montalvo is gonna. I'm gonna send him down there in a pass. Give him $10. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you about it later. Something like that. Like I got it from Emily.
Oh, that is so cool. I'm so you're just bringing me too much joy. Like so many good stuff that you
Oh,
know the
thank you.
I can't forget. And I got to ask you, right? So, you've been teaching for a long time. If you can share a little bit of like where you went to school and what you that I guess that spark that you knew you wanted to pursue special ed teaching.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you should ask that because I feel like I feel like the spark is dead and I'm trying to move away from something else right now. I actually quit my job in January and I subbed a little bit. I worked at the post office, but I got fired because it turns out I can't drive a postal vehicle safely. Like they totally proved it to me. They're like, dude, you cannot drive this thing safely without killing somebody. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. I'll go work somewhere else. But that's just a side thing. So I don't know. I grew up and I had a really bad experience in my schooling. I went to Chicago public schools for a little bit, younger, and then I went to schools in Elgin, just like, I don't know, 30, 40 miles outside Chicago. We lived there for a few years. Then I went to school in Oak Park, which is pretty close to downtown, excuse me. And no, I didn't like school at all. I thought it was terrible. I hated teachers. And then for some reason, like around my early 30s, I was like, I should probably just pack it in and be a teacher because I'd done a lot of stuff in my 20s that just like nonsense. Like I was like a delivery boy for an insurance company. I drove a taxi. I was a bike messenger. I worked at a library, just like putting labels on books and things like that. And I thought, well, during this time, this was after college. I didn't really like college either. Um, After college, I think I got more interested in actually learning things and being smart. Like, basically, I think I wasn't ready to go to college because I didn't care about anything related to learning or any of that until I was like in my fourth year of college, which is way too late to have that realization. And I feel like I should have just messed around for a few years after high school until I was actually ready to go. I don't think there's anything magical about going to college at 18. If a lot of people can do it and that's an appropriate age for a lot of people. I mean, you went right after your senior year, right? Like
Yeah.
you started going to Northeastern. Is
Yep.
all right. But I don't think I was there. I don't think I was mature enough, or I don't even know. But so then I did a lot of learning in my 20s about various things. And I decided that, I really liked the idea of public education and about how its function in democracy. And I wanted to be, so I went into teaching history my first year. and it was at this private school. It was terrible, a terrible situation, awful school. It's just like a smoldering pile of rubble now. Like if you look it up on Google Maps, you look at it and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Um, the and then I got hired at Northtown because Emily worked there. And I got hired there to be a sub for some teachers who were going on leave, like an English teacher, a history teacher. This went back, they had psychology then. So I was doing those jobs. And about 2 months after I started working there, one of the teachers I was going to go on leave for switched to special ed. And she worked as a special ed teacher for like a week. And then she went on leave and had her baby. So all of a sudden I was a special ed teacher. Wasn't up to the day that happened, I had never considered being a special ed teacher. So, but then I realized that that job was way better than the other type of teaching for me, because you get to have closer relationships with students. I think just among teachers, I think special ed teachers are really better. Just like not better, just like the type of people I prefer to hang out with more than English teachers who seem like super uptight to me, just as an example. And so Catherine Coughlin, my boss at the time, was like, well, if you go back to school this summer and take 3 classes, we'll hire you on as a full-time special ed teacher next year. And I was like, cool. And so that was in 2008. And at the end of that year, I actually got fired by Civitas, by the principal, on like her last day. And I told Catherine, and she said, just ignore that. And I took the 3 classes. And then at the end of the summer, I contacted Civitas and I was like, hey, I work there. And they're like, oh, shit, you do? Because they're so disorganized. And then I negotiate, and then I told them to give me a 4% raise. And they did.
Oh, wow.
2 months after firing me. And I don't even know why they fired me, like, because we were non-union then. And so they didn't have to tell anything. So then I worked as a special ed teacher there for 8 more years until I moved here to Wisconsin.
Whoa. And real quick, so you knew Emily, who's now your wife, way before Northtown. And
Yeah.
when did you knew, like, because this is, I'm always curious, when did you like set the first date and you knew this is gonna be your girl? Like you already had that attraction towards her.
Yeah. Our first date was on January 1st of 2006. And I had met her in grad school in 2005. We were in the same class together, and we always just used to have these super awkward conversations after class. And like, I didn't know what to say to her at all. I went up to her and I was like, wait, what did I say to her? I was like, what does Mexico lindo mean? And she goes, it means beautiful Mexico. And I was like, okay, what is Michoacan? And she goes, that's a state in Mexico. And I was like, cool. And then she just like turned around and left, and she went through these doors. And I thought they were the doors of the parking garage. And I just remember thinking, that girl has a car. But really, it's just the computer lab. I don't know why she had to turn around and go run into the computer lab in retrospect. And then the last day of that class, I hated that class. But the last day of that class, I was hanging out at the end waiting for her to go in the hallway so I could talk to her and get her number. And she just kept talking to the teacher. And every time I was in class and in teacher school, I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. That was just going on in my head the whole time. Like I didn't feel like it was doing anything other than putting me through steps that I needed to get a degree. So I was just waiting for her. And then I was like, forget this, I'm leaving. So I just left. And then like a month later, I interviewed at DePaul for a job in the library. And I had 4 years experience doing this exact same thing. And they wanted to pay me like $6 an hour when previously I was making like a salary. And so they were wanting to pay me like nothing. And I got really depressed about that. And I went home and took a nap. And then I opened up my email, and there was an email from her saying she needed some information about how to find something on the internet. And I remember thinking to myself, she knows how to use Google. And then I was like, that girl likes me. And then I just shut my computer and I went back to take a nap. And then I just emailed her later. We started emailing, and then we went out on our first date, and that was it.
Whoa.
Now we have kids and everything.
I know it's amazing how like life went so fast because when I was in Northtown, I knew you and Miss Harris, you both were like really close. And I was like, man, I know they're gonna get married. I had a feeling that I could feel
Mm-hmm.
the attractionness and the closeness. I'm like, they're gonna
Yeah.
marry soon. And you guys did. You see?
Yeah. Yeah. We got married. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long after I started seeing her that it was pretty obvious we were going to get married and have kids. I was like, I could either do this or like die, I'll get my like head stuck in a bucket and nobody will be around to take it off for me and I'll like get starve, or something. I was like, yeah, I just felt like I really needed her. And so, and then we moved to Wisconsin, and I was like, all right, well, I'm doing this because it's for her, basically. No, not really. I mean, it's for both of us, but it was her idea, so I had to put a lot of faith in things. And then we moved here, and for the first couple of years, it was pretty rough. I was pissed, but other than that, but now things are fine.
What
Yeah,
what made it hard to go to Wisconsin? Is it because everything's far away? Like,
yeah, and it's just you can't. Where I live, it's getting better now. You can't get anywhere without driving. That drives me crazy. I hate that. It's so, there's like no public transportation, or there is, but it's bad. It's not like in Chicago. You could just whip around anywhere. You ride your bike anywhere. I love that. There's people out on the street all the time. We'd sit on our porch and just watch people walk by. And here, somebody will walk by, and like a nice day, somebody will walk by your house like maybe once an hour. And they're just walking their dog. So there's no kind of community like I felt in Chicago. And Chicago was really diverse. I loved that, like where we lived in Albany Park. And here, like this neighborhood is like 85% white. The neighborhood to the east is 97% white. The neighborhood to the west is like 95% white. There's just like no diversity, and so Madison is very segregated. And I mean, I had no idea when I was moving in, but that's just that bothers me, that there's so many, that just like everybody around here is white. It's just families just in houses, as opposed to just Chicago's cool. Yeah.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I was gonna
Yeah.
tell you, is there any other staff that you still talk to from Northtown, like Mr. P, Mr. Chow, or anybody,
Uh,
Miss Feldman, or
Just that. Well, the thing is, they're all on Facebook, so like I can interact with them on Facebook, but I don't really like to use Facebook. Oh, Miss Holper, I forgot. She's a good friend of mine, but I don't talk to her that often. And Miss Navejas, she used to be Miss Riggins. She's a
yeah.
Spanish teacher, short red hair. Yeah, we're good friends with her and her husband and kids, and we went camping with them like 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, and now I'm not working anywhere. I'm not sure what I'm going to do in a couple weeks. I keep feeling like I'm a teacher on summer break, but I'm not, because I quit my job in January. So
Dang.
just because summer doesn't mean I'm on summer break. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
what do you feel like is the like what made you leave, teaching? Like make that
I just started thinking just over and over. So like when I was a kid, as I told you before, like I had all these thoughts about how against education I was. And just like the authoritarianism and the yelling and the just do this and it's going to be better and you're going to go to college and all that. And I was just very skeptical about all that. Like the only reason I went to college is because I wanted to move out of the house, and I could do it that way because back then college was cheap enough to actually be able to do that. But then those thoughts started coming back to me, and it was kind of a result. My school district really pushes people to be anti-racism educators, because schools were built specifically in this country for white people, and what we've been trying to do, so they desegregated schools legally, right? But like these models that we use, like the Bell schedule model at Northtown, you just go here, 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 here. It's built for a different time and a different people, with the specific intention of excluding everybody who's not white, right? And we're still using it, and I think things need to be a lot different. And I concluded that through the anti-racism training that the district encouraged me to go through. I was like, oh my God, like, I think this whole situation as it is now is just like irredeemably racist. And like, I saw a lot of teachers do it. And like, teachers did a lot of good things, like put up Black Lives Matter flags in the classrooms, try and just show like, we threw out all the old books that we read when I was a kid. The students now were choosing books about characters who looked like them, who had experiences like them. Like when I was a kid, it was just like Huckleberry Finn. You got to read that, The Scarlet Letter, just like the, American classics. And that, the Huckleberry Finn has the N-word in it like hundreds of times, and like, so it's good they got rid of that, but at the same time, and I think those things are important, but at the same time, I saw them all kind of as like lipstick on a pig, like it's good that we're doing this stuff, but like fundamentally it's rotten, I think. Whoa. I don't think like the idea of grouping students by age is a good idea. At all, because like as I was talking about before, like people mature at different ages and things like that. I don't think students have enough choice at all in what they're doing. Why is it that like every 9th grader's got to learn biology, every 10th grader's got to learn chemistry? I'm sure it's like a real easy and straightforward way to do things if you're of the idea that adults have to have a lot of control over kids. I think that's the way to do it. Or if you're going from the foundational belief that students will make a lot of bad choices, and kind of need to be told what to do. I'm not completely sure where I'm going with this philosophy yet. It's still kind of a work in progress, but I think what it should be is you show up to school and you have the choice of going to class or not. And there are lots of different options. Like there'd be like woodshop class, and you could like go in there and you could drop in for like 3 hours and just spend all day making wood stuff. Or you could go to like a class, or you could have like a scheduled, reading circle and discussion circle with an English teacher. Or you could, go do math on a computer, or you could go do math with like blocks or whatever. There should be lots of different options. This would cost like $1 billion more than what we're doing now, but we should be paying that. We should have that money because we do in this country, and we spend it mostly to have soldiers all over the world protecting American businesses. We spend $850 billion a year on our military. So like the money is there. It's just not being sent on schools to do it in the best way. And I look at it as like every class of freshmen that I taught this year, I taught 3 classes of freshmen. There'll always be like 5 kids who did not want to be there and were just disruptive as a result, and brought down the educational experience of people who did want to learn. And Northtown was kind of crazy, like the stuff they could get away with there that I don't think is replicable anywhere else. Like just because it was a charter school, and we had this idea of like fuck around, get kicked out of class, pardon my language. But like a lot of schools can't do that. Almost no other schools can do that, I think.
Right.
And so, in a public school, you can't really do that. So I'm just thinking like these guys don't want to be there. We should not force them to go. It's like adults are walking around taking students and like pushing them into rooms that are along this corridor, right? And it just seemed so much to me like prison, you know? And I
Mm.
think that through mass incarceration of black people, the that's kind of how it's racist in that it seems like we're training people for prison using that model. And it works for some people, but like, and I think those people should be able to have that if they want. There should be a program like that, but there should also be programs where I don't know, students should be able to have far more freedom because when you choose to do something, you um want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, so just I think, go to school, and if you don't know what you want to do, there should be like a room where you can hang out and adults will be there and be like, well, maybe this thing that we're offering is good for you, or maybe not. Because I don't think that anybody is just going to go to school every day and just hang out in this room playing ping pong for 10 years or whatever and never get educated. Like, I don't see that happening. People are naturally curious. I think a lot of the reason people don't participate in education is they don't like being forced into it,
Mm.
so, and I don't know. I just feel like there are just kind of negative assumptions made about young people that kind of the whole thing is based on now. And I just don't want to be like part of that. But also, I quit in January because this kid stole $40 from me and faced no punishment. And then they let a parent come down to the classroom to yell at me, and they didn't care. I told them, I was like, hey, this guy was let into the building to come yell at me in my class. And the principal's like, well, you should be happy he's involved in his kid's education. I was just like, forget this place, I'm out.
Oh.
So I'm not sure what I'm gonna do in a couple weeks. When the school year starts, because I'm going to have to get a job then. But I don't know. I have to make 4 more student loan payments while working in education, and then I get them off. Then I get the rest forgiven. So that's my plan for now. I'm not sure what else I want to do.
Oh. Well, I gotta be honest, Brian, this is very interesting what you shared. I think you're so right on that students should be able to find something that they like, whether it's, cutting wood, being a mechanic, or something that is part of the curriculum, not the basic, like just biology, math, and I agree with you. Every kid's brain works differently. For me, it's more like I like movies a lot, so I'm a very visual person, right? Or stories. Some people they like group activities, right? That's how they learn. I think there has to be a way where every student can find something or a class where they feel that it goes along with their passion or whatever it may be. And I think you're right. A lot of things needs to change. And it's gonna take time, right? Because every system, like one thing that you made me think too, like in Europe, education actually, or actually, I would say Asia, education is the number one priority. That's where all the taxes goes to, and they pay their teachers better than the U.S. And it's just
Yeah.
to show you the difference,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing, and what you said, and I love you like for sharing that. I am gonna wrap up the podcast because it looks like Zoom about to kick me out. But let me just say this real
Okay.
quick. Let me say this real quick, guys. This is the Outlet to Reality, the holdest podcast in Vegas and Chicago every Tuesday. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ching. Y'all know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, the Outlet to Reality. My Snapchat is Take One Pass It, and my TikTok is at Yakov28. And Brian, where can my fans find you?
Nowhere. I have a Twitter at Brian D. Harris, but I think I'm gonna delete it because now it's X. I don't know what the heck is going on with that guy, man. He ruined it. So I'm just
Oh,
chilling in Wisconsin,
oh man.
Madison, the East Side.
I love it. I love it.